What's up, gang? Dead Girl here, coming at you on a Wednesday evening. Today we have a very special guest, a good friend of ours, Orlando artist by the name of Vaughn Belak. How are you tonight?
Who are you?
I don't know. Some girl.
Hey, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you guys in like forever.
It's been way too long.
It has been. You should have been in my backyard like numerous times by now.
Yes, in your pool and slip and sliding and hurting my knee because that's what I do best.
It's set up right now.
If you hear noise later, it's just us in the yard creating our own play area.
Feel free.
Now, for those of us that are kind of watching and hanging out with us this evening that aren't familiar with who you are or what you do, tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Vaughn Belak. I'm a painter. I live in Orlando, Florida. I have been painting for about 10 years. I used to do the same in Atlanta, and I was in LA for a while. If you have ever followed me, you know that I jump around a little bit, but I've been primarily in Central Florida for a while now.
Nice. And what got you into creating art? I know a lot of people are like, I've been doing it since I was little. Was that a thing for you? Is that something that you've always done? Or was that kind of something that you just kind of started doing at random one day?
Yeah, no, I was never little. I just came out this size.
I knew it.
Yeah, it is the cliche, but that's because it's true. I just, I started drawing immediately. You know, I was always drawing. I was always doodling something. Then that turned into, I got a hold of some spray paint cans for a while in life, and that got me in some good trouble. I've always more or less been painting something. I was a musician for a long time, but I was always in charge of like the flyers, or always in charge of whatever the creative visual was. I was always the kind of just go-to, or mostly just because I was the one willing to do it, I think. But yeah, I've always been painting or drawing or something. And then about a little over 10 years ago, I got you could say I got more serious about it.
Okay. And is that when you decide? I know, like, you for a while you had the regular like 9-to-5 day job, you know, the mind-numbing, soul-sucking job that we all kind of do so that we can pay bills. And then one day you were just like, I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, I had the last day job, paycheck factory job that I had was, about 10 years ago, maybe a little more. I can't even keep up right now. Soul-sucking, terrible. It was a call center primarily, but I was doing a lot of other stuff for the place. So ultimately what happened, I was part of a show. I had started painting a little bit, and I did some math, and I realized that for every hour I was sitting there at that job, I was losing money that I could be painting and selling my work because it was already starting to move, and I was starting to pay attention to it. I had sold out of a couple of bars and some things like that around town. And this particular show was a themed show. So it wasn't original work, but it was a themed show, a benefit for autistic kids. And the pieces I was painting were Muppets. It was the fucking Muppets.
Oh, nice.
And it's such a great thing because they paint themselves there. You don't have to work too hard to find the personality. And you know, with fan art stuff, I never do fan art that I hate. You know, so I don't think I know anyone that hates Muppets. But if I did, I would be very suspicious of them and their motives.
I'm going to agree with you there. The Muppets were a thing that I grew up with when I was a kid, and anybody that has a dislike for them, there's something fishy going on.
I'm not into it,
I would say. So how did you decide to say, the hell with it, I'm done, you know, with the paycheck, other than like sit down and figure out the numbers? When you made that leap, was that something that you decided like on the spot? Have you been thinking about it for a while and just said, screw it, you know, it's time?
I don't really make a lot of large decisions on my own. I have essentially a team of experts that I consult. Like literally, I have people I talk to, just a circle of other artists. In this particular case, I had a guy. You could call him a mentor, and he and I did some math. We literally sat down with a pen and paper and did some math, and it just made more sense to go in and say, hey, I'm done here. And what's the easiest way? It was kind of like if you've ever seen the movie Office Space.
Yes.
It was when he sits. It's like that. It was like I walked in. I was like, yeah, I barely do anything here. It's like I'm not happy. You're not happy with me. Let's stop doing this.
Let's end this relationship.
Let's end this on a good note. And by the time it was like the best parting of a job I've ever had because we basically, it was very amiable, and they agreed with me. I agreed with them. and I even made a couple of sales in the office. That my manager bought some prints on the
Nice.
spot. They thought I was drunk at first. I told them I was like, I really just wasting my time here. So, let's go ahead and wrap this up. And I split that day, and I left and I called my girlfriend, who's my wife now. I called her, told her I quit my job, and she was like, "What?" And I was like, "I'll tell you later." And off I went.
Just like, by the way, honey, I'm done. I quit.
Oops. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's obviously more to it, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but
That's okay.
That's essentially how the story went.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Now, when did you, I know you do a lot of, now you do a lot of vending and things like that. Is that something that you decided to do off the bat, or were you more doing like specialized commission pieces?
I only really started the vending, and in fact, I only vend at one event anymore. I used to do a lot of outdoor sales and a lot of those things, but I live in Florida. So that's bullshit, because it's always going to rain.
And it's always hotter than hell.
It's always super hot. So, but I did make it through all of the sidewalk circuit, the wine and art walks, where they don't really care what the art is. It's really just about getting some free wine and wandering around.
Yeah.
But I did really well at those. I'm making fun, but that's really where I cut my teeth for sales, was those art markets and those wine walks. And I mean, there's so many of them in Orlando too. There's just a ton of them, and they're always like, third Thursday, second Wednesday, fourth Friday, and they're all, if you're a beginning artist, or if you're just somebody who's not sure how to sell their work, they're great. It's a great tool to use while you need it. I very well may end up back there. I don't know, but currently I just don't use that tool anymore. I've got other things that I do, and I built from that. I built a clientele. Mm-hmm. And then I got into galleries. Actually, I had already gotten into some galleries before I was doing those.
Oh, nice.
And then the only event that I vend is when there's a Spooky Empire.
Nice. Yep. I remember the first time I saw you, and I don't know if it was your first year of vending or not, but I know the first time that I ran into you, I actually think I bought him, if I'm not mistaken, was, I want to say the DoubleTree, and you were like outside, and it was during like a Day of the Dead walk or something was going on, and they had a couple of vendors outside.
It was Mayhem. It was like one of the, I think it might have been the last Mayhem that they had, and you and JD actually helped me get together with Petey and them. I know you guys kind of hounded me a little bit, actually, or at least JD did.
JD definitely did more than me, I will admit. That was mostly him hounding.
I totally didn't want to do it. I didn't understand the rental fees. I had a lot of like questions.
Yeah.
I was just kind of I didn't know then what I know now. So what wound up going on was, I'm not exactly sure who got it for me or who took care of it, but they gave me a free table outside by the pool. Nice. In the walkway, and I just destroyed it. I cleaned my table, and it was great because there was a huge storm, much like we're talking about, and the storm took apart everything that everybody else was doing, and my table was empty, and I just packed up and split.
That's awesome. So for you, that show was just straight up profit.
It was 100% just show up, and it was afterwards when I did talk to Petey again. He was like, "So what'd you think?" I was like, "I'll see you next time."
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was sold. He sold me by example, basically.
Yes. And it helps too that, and I mean, you do a lot of different types of pieces. You do a lot of original pieces, which are all fantastic, and then you also do a lot of fan art stuff, which is great too. So you literally have something for everybody, whether they're a fan of cartoons and stuff like Muppet Babies, or they're a fan of like Elvira or Nosferatu or Frankenstein's monster. So you kind of cover all that, but you also do a lot of your own individual work, which is amazing. And I just want to kind of show some of this off real quick.
Thank you. I mean, the fan art led to the original art, so I'm always grateful for commissions. I get a lot of commissions. People want me to paint certain things, and I'll be, most of the time I'm happy to, and if I'm not happy with the subject matter, the price will reflect that. And then, the original work is really where my heart is, and that's what I do the commissions to get to the originals.
Yeah, and like these are probably some of my favorites.
Thank you.
That you've done. I love the Devil Girl. I think she's fabulous. And the other two are just badass chicks. And I absolutely love that. So I have to ask, and looking at the original art, where do you draw your inspiration from? I see your wife.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've met my wife, so that answers that question. My wife's Vaughn Belak, and she's also an amazing artist, and she does Spooky Empire as well. And yeah, you guys should drag her on here, make her do this.
I tried, man. I tried. I'm not giving up, though. Let her know. My hounding of her is not yet ended.
Fantastic. Keep at it. I'll help.
Yay!
And she's very modest about her work, and she's amazing. And I get a lot of inspiration from her as just visually, of course, but we're partners. We're not like one's not greater than the other. We're very much a team, and I get inspired by her every day. And everything that she creates inspires me in some way, and I think we feed off of each other a lot that way.
And that's fantastic. And I can see that in your work. And then I see some of the stuff that she does. I could see a little V in there.
Yeah.
Which I think is great.
I mean, we've been locked up with each other for months now, so.
I mean, you're both still alive and breathing, clearly. I mean, I don't see her, so I'm assuming she's alive and breathing. So I mean, that's really good that you guys have that relationship where you kind of, fuel each other. You know what I mean? A lot of folks don't have that. So I think it's fantastic that you guys have that type of relationship.
It's pretty amazing. She's been incredibly supportive. When I called her and told her I quit the job, she didn't, she actually answered my calls again after that happened. Which was nice. And, when there's been, we've gotten to a point where it's really nice because we've also got an 11-year-old, our son, and,
yes.
All of us are very involved in some kind of creative. He draws a lot. Right now, not so much. He's kind of in a phase. But there'll be times when all three of us are working on something in the living room all at the same time. And those are some of my favorite moments to kind of like look around and all three of us are creating or building something.
See, I love that. I think that that's absolutely fantastic, especially with, you two and then, the son getting involved in everything too. And he's a great kid. Love him. So I'm excited to see him grow and progress.
He's all right. He's lucky to be alive.
I mean, he wakes up in the morning too. So that's a good thing.
Ooh, doesn't he? Yeah.
That I know of.
And he goes to Spook Empire too. Like we've brought him a couple of times. We tend to let him pick and choose what he wants to get into and what he doesn't, those kinds of things.
Nice. And that's awesome. So he has that freedom to kind of do his thing. And I think that that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. I got a bunch of folks in the chat saying hi. I got Alex in there saying hey, Trisha, JD, Heather, Cheryl, Steve, whole bunch of troublemakers saying what's up.
I'm so glad there's people actually showing up. I didn't think anyone would hear me talk for a fucking hour.
I mean, see,
I'm so sick of hearing me.
People like to hang out. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Now I got to ask, and just to pop back to your art real quick, because there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you about it. I don't know, what medium do you typically work in when you're doing something like these?
Well, everything I do these days, it's kind of it's a combo. It's all acrylic. I'm not working in oils. Primarily, it's airbrush right now. Honestly, it's a lot of airbrush. It's a little bit of charcoal pencils go on sometimes. There's still, when I first started out, there was quite a bit of finger painting and smudging things around and like literally pushing paint. I was always trying to get this real smooth kind of look. And one day, a friend of mine, who my friend Menton Matthews, who we do a podcast together, he and I were talking, and he started talking about how he was using an airbrush. And all I ever thought of airbrushing was, Daytona fucking palm trees, right? Like beach scenes and
Florida.
And I had never seen an airbrush used in the way that Menton uses an airbrush. And then I took it, and it was perfect for me because, like I mentioned early on, I've got a very big basis with, ground floor for me is graffiti. Like spray paint was where I really got somewhere where I felt comfortable with with what I was doing art-wise. And then I would do things like leather jackets for other guys that I knew around the neighborhood or whatever that I hung out with. So like you're doing a band logo or something, so it's like all skulls and whatever. Right. And the cheat is cut out a stencil and hit it with a spray can.
Yeah.
So airbrush is really, it was like I was using 5 or 6 tools to get the effect of one tool. I just wasn't using the right tool for the right job. I was using everything but that. And I don't know why it took me so long, but when it did finally click and Menton was like, hey, why don't you go get an airbrush? I jumped at it, and it's really, I've got a bunch of them now, but it's the primary tool.
Nice. Now, you have a very unique style. So when I look at a piece of art, I immediately know that it's you. Because you always do, like, these lovely speckles and other, highlights in them. How did that come about? How did you develop your signature style, I guess?
When you're really, really bad at something, you try to find ways to hide it, is really what it is. The spattering started as a way to camouflage shortcomings in my work, right. And then what it really is truly supposed to be, and it sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. At least in my mind, what I'm doing when I'm doing the spatter, and the way I lay out my backgrounds, there's like a white streak down the back, and then the colors, and it fades and gets burned out on the edges. What I'm doing, or what I'm trying to translate, is if you've ever watched like an old black and white movie, and there's maybe a singer on a stage, and she's got one can light over her head, and you can see the speckles of the dust in the air. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to capture. It's like capturing a moment is what I'm trying to do.
I love that.
Thank you.
I think it's fantastic. It's very unique. It's not something, again, it's not something that I've ever seen anybody else do. So it definitely causes your artwork to stand out there above anybody else. And like I said, I can look at something and be like, that's Vaughn.
It's really important for artists to find that fingerprint. And it takes whatever it takes. But it took me going through some other styles and experimenting with other people's choices and finding my own footing, as it does for anybody. That's really how you learn, is mimicry. And then once I've kind of locked into what I was looking for, it's almost hard to break through that. Sometimes there's people that'll have me do some pieces that aren't that, or I do some abstract work also, some very large abstract work. Haven't done it in a little bit, but I love doing it, and it's completely removed from what I'm doing with my character portraits or my original work, and it's difficult to get in that mindset. And then I was recently in fact right now I'm working on 3 paintings that are not necessarily in the same genre as what I'm doing now. From several years ago. I'm recreating something, and it's hard to find my way back. So it's very interesting to get there. Okay,
I gotcha. Wow. That's
a lot. I'm sorry.
No. I love it. I love the process. I love learning, things and kind of getting a little bit of a peek into your mind, as it were. Got a bunch of people in the chat saying, hey. Got Ginger Williams says hello. Let's see. I don't know how to say this. Dandy is his last name. He said, hey. I don't even know his first name. It's like ROGNVALD. I can't pronounce it, dude. I'm sorry. All right. I can spell it. That's all you're getting, damn it.
Hello, everyone. Everyone taking a minute to jump in here.
It is too. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for hanging out tonight. Listening to Vaughn talk about his awesome artwork. And I do have some questions, kind of just circling back to the vending aspect of things. I noticed when you vend, a lot of the times you have some of your original pieces, but you do a lot of the fan art, as well. How is vending affected what you actually bring and what you sell? Do you typically tend to bring more stuff that's like fan oriented, or are you more apt to bring out your original pieces?
Whenever I do a show, I bring a mix. I try to have anything for anyone. I try to have something for somebody that's got $5. I try to have something for somebody who's got $500. Nice. I try to go anywhere that's. I mean, and you never know who's going to show up at your table. I've made $1,000 sales thinking I was only going to sell tiny little prints all week, right. Or all weekend, and you just simply never know. So the more things you have as options, obviously it's easier. So a lot of the fan art stuff that I bring little 5x7 prints, and I usually frame them up nice and have them, they're all signed. And I do that as more of like it's a business card. It's like if you take one of those little 5x7s, you see what I do. You've got my name, you've got my information, because I'm going to give you a business card. Yeah. And then you're going to come back around, and maybe what I'm doing, not maybe, but definitely what I'm doing at a show like Spooky is I'm fishing for commissions. I'm looking for, if I get 3 commissions in a day, it's a successful day. I don't care what's on my table. I don't care what's not on my table. If I walk away with 3 commissions, that's where my money is really at. It's about putting art out there into the world that people can see, relate to, and then come back and be like, hey, you're that guy that did that thing. Can you also do this other thing that I like?
That's awesome.
And I do. I always say yes unless it's no. Even if it's something I don't want to do, I'll do it, but it's going to cost you.
So you got to make sure it's something that you're good with doing.
Well, and I'm being a little bit facetious, but there's been people who've asked for things that I'm not really comfortable doing, or people ask for something and I know somebody who could do it infinitely better, and I might send them that way. It's really just, I like to make the connections with people and have a relationship build with somebody that's going to buy some work from me later. And it's not even about like client or this or that. It's more about building relationships and building friendships with people for later. And a lot of people that I've worked with on commissions, it becomes in a perfect mesh. What it is, it's a collaboration. The person gives me a few ideas. I take those ideas. I do what I can do with them. They like it, I hope, and then we can move on. It's like when you get, it's like a tattooer. Like you want to have good communication. You don't want a Xerox machine. You want somebody who's going to do something that you're going to appreciate and look at and attach memories to, and feelings are going to come along. There's a whole thing to it. I could talk literally like for days on just this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know like personally when I'm shopping for artwork, I'm always I look for unique styles. I look for something that I'm going to want to hang on my wall or that I'm going to want to wear, stuff like that. I'm not just going to be like, this is okay, I guess I'll buy it. Like I like to shop for things that are in my realm, and I think it helps that to have that communication, especially if you're commissioning a piece from an artist.
Sure.
You want to be able to have that open dialogue with people, and some people tend to forget that it's okay to do that.
It is, and I really love the ability to educate and let people know that that's a possibility. I like people to talk to me about these things, ask me questions. We get into a conversation, and maybe we start one place and we end up somewhere else. I've had so many, especially recently with what's been going on. I was concerned as an independent artist, full-time job, painting. You go into lockdown, everybody's fucking let go or whatever.
Right.
You worry. You have some concerns, right?
Well, of course.
Spooky's postponed or rescheduled, whatever. What do you do now?
Right.
Luckily, these relationships I'm talking about, a lot of those folks have come through and stepped up and been like, now is a great time to buy some artwork.
Yep.
And as I'm sitting here talking, like if you're watching this and you're thinking about it,
do it.
Not just me. Contact artists that you know, that you love, that you normally see at places like Spooky. They're hurting, and they could probably use the work. Yep. And you'd love to have something new to stare at on your wall.
Exactly. And that's kind of why you literally hit the nail on the head, though. That's just it. That's part of why I started doing some of these videos with a lot of like my vendor friends, like, like you guys and Banky Art, for example, and Linda from Deviant Dolls, because I know that, primarily the convention scene is done this year. There are no shows. There is no vending. So I love to be able to share, what you guys do with people out there so that they know that your stuff is available, how amazing it is, and that, you guys are local, support all your local artists.
And even if they're not local, there's international artists. There's guys that are super well known. There's guys that I fucking worship that I know that they're looking for commissions right now. And you might be surprised who you could reach out to on like Facebook and be like, hey, are you busy? And a lot of these guys will probably answer at this point. Even guys that you never thought in a million years you'd be able to get a piece of like, Chet Zar work or something, or somebody that you could reach out to and ask them.
Yeah. And some of them even are just bored, man, and want something new to work on and new to do,
Sure.
And I totally get that, And I know, you sit there and you talk about how you sell your art, how it's important to have those relationships. And I don't know, are you still doing, I know you used to do classes, The Art Always Sells. Are you still doing those? Or are you still doing consultations? I've got a couple people in the chat saying that, they've taken some of those classes and they've helped them immensely.
I do. I still do. I do one-on-one coaching now. What we're talking about is a class that I started doing called Art Always Sells. I was doing it with some folks at my favorite local art supply store. Here's another plug. Sam Flax got a hold of me and wanted to know if I would teach a class. If I could teach a class, I said, "On fucking what? Like, I don't. What am I gonna?" At this point, I had just really started airbrushing, so I wasn't really competent enough to teach anybody how to make a damn circle, much less anything else. So I said, I don't know, let me get back to you. And I went and talked to some friends like I always do. I always run it by some guys, and we came up with the idea, like, what do I really enjoy? And one of the things that I enjoy is learning how to sell art. As an artist, if you can't sell your work, who's going to do it for you? You know, like if you're on the bottom level and you can't get a promoter, you can't get an agent, you can't get your foot in a gallery, you don't know even where to start. Who shows you these things? Nobody showed me. The way that I figured these things out was basically, like I mentioned, I mean, I was in punk rock bands and stuff, so as a kid, you learn how to make a flyer, you fucking book a venue, probably after you got the flyer, because you're just really kind of making it up as you go.
Right.
You try and figure it out as you go, and you get in where you can. So what I really wanted to do was I wanted to make a class that taught artists, of not just beginners, but people who've been at it for a little while. How do I get in here? How do I do this? How do I do online sales? What do I set my table up? Do I need a tablecloth? Like, some of the things that people just don't kind of think about. Right. Should I bring lights? Do I need an extension cord? Like, these basic things that I take for granted now, I didn't know 10 years ago that I should bring a fucking tablecloth, like, to make it look nice. I didn't know presentation. And so at this point, I had started studying a few sales guys, basically going on YouTube and looking for stuff to teach me how to sell things, because I need to know how to sell my work because I've got nobody else to do it. Right. And this is what I want to keep doing. So I'm going to take this information that I've gone and dug out of the darkest corners of YouTube, and I'm going to try and bring it to somebody at Sam Flax, and hopefully it helps them. And I've gotten wonderful feedback from people. I've gotten to set up, my favorite feedback that I've ever got was not somebody telling me anything. What it was, I set up at an event in an area called Thornton Park here in Orlando, and I set up next to two other artists that had taken my class, and those motherfuckers outsold me. And I was so proud. I was so excited that they did so well. And at the end of the night, they looked at me and they were like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I was like, it's not even about that. I'd love to see that the proof was that they did it and that it worked, and all they did was all the same stuff that I do. And so that the Art Always Sells class was something that I did in person for, I think, about a year. I did those, and I'm going to bring them back. I don't know if it's going to be at Sam Flax, but I will be bringing them back in person. They'll be smaller. The average classes were about 20 or so people, and so they'll be smaller. But what I do now is, if you're interested in something like that, message me and tell me what your issues are, and we'll fix them.
That's awesome. I love to hear that, and I know a lot of artists that work in different mediums and things like that, and everybody that I've talked to has been very forthcoming with information and very willing to help each other. And I think that's such a wonderful thing, because there are some communities that are just not that way, and I never understood it. So it makes me so happy that the art community is very open to, to help each other grow. I think that's a fantastic thing.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to be like fucking unicorns and rainbows. There's some guys out there that are not like that, and that's fine.
I haven't met them yet.
Stick around. But, like, even those guys, I learned from those guys, too, because I learned what I don't want to do. Right. And I learned that I want to be different than that. I want to be able to, if I learn something, I just want to pass it on. And that's kind of for anything, because there's just stuff you don't know how to ask or who to ask. And if you can pass on some information like, how can I make money as an artist in a recession during a fucking plague with crazy shit going on across the country, and you're still fucking selling art, there is no excuse except the one I'm looking for if I can't sell a fucking painting.
Right. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I think
I'm pretty driven about it. I'm very pro finding a solution to things. I'm very much like, if the door's stuck, paint another one or knock it over. I mean, I'm very much about pushing through things and not letting myself get stuck in excuses or like the starving artist cliche, which I think is horseshit. I just believe very strongly that if you've really got it in you to make this thing happen, it's just like anything else. You're going to find every single way to do it, as long as you're looking for that and not looking for every single way not to. I'm always looking for some kind of a way to get some kind of new information, learn some new technique, learn some new something that's going to help me further what I do, and then I get to push somebody else along the way. It's just, I just love sharing that stuff.
That's awesome. And you've got one hell of a hustle too, man, because you don't just sell art. And you don't just like talk to people about how to sell art. You've got your hands in like so many different things. And I know it's been a long time since you've done them. You started doing sketch nights.
Yeah.
A little while back too. And those were definitely different. I know you guys would get some models to come out, and people could come and they could, either do photographs or they could sketch sketch the people. And you guys had some unique presences come out for those.
We do. It's what we're talking about now is we're talking about it began, and it was called Oddlando Sketch Cult, and it's not that anymore. It's just Sketch Cult. And the way this started was I love photography. I paint, but photography is really how I kind of shake things loose. And when I get stuck, it's my go-to for when I don't want to paint. It's a secondary creative outlet. I love photography. I love taking pictures of basically anything. And so what I wanted a couple of things. I wanted a night for artists to come together, and I wanted to pay some models, and I wanted to have models that weren't fucking boring. If you've ever been to a sketch night in any town, really, I found them boring. And that's just me, I guess. But maybe not, because people were showing up. So what I wanted was something interesting, something visually challenging, something you don't see. And I'm big into the oddities and sideshows and old-timey circus and freak shows and just whatever some kind of an interesting twist. So what I did is I got in contact with some people who I knew that were doing performances, some people who were some cosplayers, some amazing drag queens from here in Orlando called the Black House.
Yes.
I reached out especially with those folks because those folks are like
phenomenal.
Some of the most amazing artists that I know, and some of they're so physically intimidating. Like Sorsha and them, they're so intimidating to look at. But when you talk to them and they come to work and they come to help make this thing function, to be the model, and they know that there's going to be like a pose for X amount of time, and they don't complain, and they just they really get into the whole thing and the process, and then you're able to give them some cash and have a really great relationship, and then they forward some people to you, and it really grew. It really, really grew. And it's me, the photographers are myself and my friend Jason Clark, who you know as well.
Yes.
And he's Hyena Head Photography here in Orlando. And,
fantastic.
My favorite photographer in Orlando. So I also, with bringing Jason in, I get to basically sponge off him and learn from him. So, and selfishly, I got him involved so I could really pick his brain. And he knows this. I'm not speaking out of school.
Right. You're not just shooting it.
No. He knows I'm completely vampirically watching everything he does.
Now, just to kind of show you guys some of the amazing models that they've had at Sketch Night, I've got a couple here, a couple shots that I snagged. Now, who we've got here? We've got a couple of lovely ladies.
We've got Cabana Macabre with her bearded lady outfit that she did. She's a local burlesque performer. She's pretty amazing gal around town. And then the other one we have is my wife, Vaughn Belak. And it's exactly like this. We try to do something that's different and unique, something you're not going to see at every sketch night. You're not going to see the pretty girl doing the pretty thing. You're going to see something that's unique to what we do. It's darker. It is more challenging to what you're going to be working on. And because of that, the artwork and the sketches and the drawings and paintings and all these things that you see that come out of these nights were just fucking phenomenal. Yeah. And some of the artists that we had come through were just brilliant. Just so many great artists.
Yeah, and I know you got some of the pictures and some of the sketches and stuff are up on the Facebook page for Sketch Cult.
There's also a Sketch Cult Instagram page, but it's a little bit dormant right now.
Okay.
I do have a new venue lined up.
Ooh.
And I do have the first model for when we come back, when we're able to come back. It's going to be it's going to be fucking cool is what it's going to be. It's going to be, I want to say, but I'm not going to. It's so good, I want to say, but the location is also going to be really great. That's part of it too, was the locations that I was picking to do these events was part of the whole package. It was kind of one of the, a couple of the places we did was, there was an oddity store that we all used to hang out at, Carmine Boutique, and we used Carmine for a long time. Another one was my friend Will Walker, who owns Will's Pub, has a place called Little Indies right next door, and we used Little Indies, and that was a great experience there as well. So the next place that we have is going to be equally great.
Awesome. I've got a couple of people in the chat asking if you thought about doing a sketch night over Zoom.
Can I be honest here?
Yes. No, lie to us. Just lie.
Fucking Zoom. I'm probably not going to do anything on Zoom. I'm probably just not, because I can't relate to, like, this right here is kind of odd to me. I need physical, real life
people.
Yeah, and I get it. Zoom is great for some folks, and some people love it. Personally, I'm just not one of them. I wish that I was, but I seem to just do better in a live setting.
Okay. I definitely can respect that, and I understand that, and there are those of us who prefer that, you know.
Sure.
All right, so hopefully that answers you crazy kids down in the chat that are hounding for a Zoom sketch
I will
night.
say this. I will say this. When we come back, when Sketch Cult reboots and comes back, we are going to have a plan to do a Facebook Live with it at the very least. So there will be the option that if you're somewhere out in the world, you can still join in and send us your work. You're more than welcome. We appreciate anybody that does that. We've done, I think we did broadcast several on Facebook Live just so that people could kind of get a feel for what we were doing.
Right.
And that the response to that was great.
That's awesome. So keep your eyes open. Just saying.
Yeah. And we'll be promoting it like crazy. I promote like, I just don't care if I'm annoying anybody. I'm going to promote as much as possible.
Listen, of all people, I understand, all right?
Yeah, for sure.
I promote to the point where it's like, mute her. Silence for 30 days because she doesn't stop. So I totally get it. And I can't wait for that to come back because that's definitely something that, you know, we'll be promoting on the page here as well. Is there any hints you can give us as to what maybe, possibly, or where?
Bring garlic.
Okay. I'm excited. Now, along with doing the sketch nights, and you mentioned this before, you did write a book. You're a published author, and it's for sale, and you can find it on Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's Dodging Knives and Throwing Bullets. And just to show you guys the cover here, how did this happen?
I have no fucking idea. I literally no. What happened was, I had been in a couple. I'm actually in a couple of books. My artwork is in a couple of books. My friend Metin, who I talk about quite a bit because we're partners in a lot of things, he got me into a couple of his books, and it sort of inspired me a little bit. But I didn't think it would ever be something I could really accomplish on my own. Was to have my own art book. And some people that I had been working with through, oh my God, like several different incarnations of things I've done as a musician primarily. The folks from Blue Blood and Barely Evil, Amelia G. and Forrest, I can't thank them enough because really what it is, one day I got the bright idea to email Amelia from Blue Blood and ask her if she'd be interested in doing some cross promotion. I had some shows coming up, and I knew that they were about to relaunch a physical magazine, Barely Evil, and I was like, hey, would you like to maybe throw in a couple things for this, and I'll throw in a couple things for that, and we can do kind of like a cross promotion. And I sent out the email. It was kind of like a Hail Mary pass, and I got fucking nothing. I got nothing back. Zero.
Oh wow.
Heard fucking nothing. And I was like, oh great. Now she thinks I'm a big jerk, and I am just, I'm just that art guy that's pushing too hard. And then it turned out I got an email back. I think it was like about a week or so later.
Okay.
It might have been. And the email was basically that she had been sick, and I was worried for nothing because she was very excited about the idea. But she said, no, I don't want to do anything with the magazine, but how do you feel about a book? And I lost my fucking mind is what happened. Because I was like, I knew that her and Forrest would be the people that could do it because they're amazing. They've published some really great underground books, just a whole lot of really cool stuff that they've done over the years. I've always been impressed with their quality and the writing and the publishing style and just kind of like a no-holds-barred kind of thing that they do. And I was ecstatic. I didn't know what it was going to be, but it wound up being exactly what I couldn't have asked for a better outlet. I couldn't have asked for a better product. And I never in a million years thought that I would be in the Library of Congress, which I am. A friend of mine likes to say from the Department of Corrections, from the DOC to the LOC. It's pretty great.
That's awesome. And now I know you can get it on Amazon. Do you have it? Is it sold anywhere else currently?
Yeah, there's a lot of stores carrying it.
Oh, nice.
There's locally in Sanford, Maya Books and Records has it. There's a couple of places on the West Coast. If you contact me, I can put you in touch with somebody. You can find it on Amazon. I can get it for you. I don't have any copies now because they sell, which is great. It's just a little background on it. It's more than just like an art book. It started off as just an idea for a coffee table book, for lack of a better idea.
Okay.
And then it turned into a little bit more. It was Amelia wanted me to explore a little bit about how I got from when she and I met as me being a musician to where I am today, which is as a painter.
Okay.
She wanted to find out a little bit about that journey, and the thing that changed the most in there were some specific lifestyle changes that I made. I had to become a different person, or else I wouldn't be able to do any of the things I'm doing now. So
Right.
we really kind of delved into point A to point B. We went through some things as far as like people who inspired me. We went through. There's some quotes. There's a bunch of quotes in the book from people I'm inspired by. Anybody from Bukowski to Ace Frehley to Evel Knievel to, there's just a whole world of things in there it's not just paintings. There's it's a chunk of my life, and I'm really proud of how that came out. It was an interesting journey. It took a lot of push. It took a lot of friends, people in my immediate world helping to contribute and support, and the way that it came about, we funded it through GoFundMe, and we just did it, and it is amazing.
How long did it take you to actually put that together, to get everything compiled before you went to actually print it?
You know what? The longest portion of it for me was two things. Waiting for the thing to get printed. That was forever. When I first got an actual copy in my hands, I was pretty stunned. But I had to go through some old computer files. I had to go through 8 years worth of work.
Oh, wow.
And when you go through, as any painter or artist or anybody who's gone through, like say if you do journal, like do you write journals or anything?
I used to. Not so much anymore, but I used to.
It's like if you were to go through 8 years worth of journals.
Yeah, no.
What the fuck did life look like 8 years ago? Is completely different than what it looks like today.
Right.
So I was going through all these things, all these pictures and images, and like the painting would kind of bring me to a place, and I'd be like, and so I went through the editing of what paintings were going to be included and what was going to be discarded was really it was an interesting fact-finding mission to see where I was and where I am today, and what that looked like in between. So that took the longest.
Oh, I bet. That's a long time, and a lot of stuff, I'm sure, to kind of dig through and see, to pick and choose what you wanted in there versus what you were like, not so much.
I've never wanted to gouge out my eyeballs so bad.
I mean, you didn't. They're still there, so that's a bonus.
Sure, yeah.
Now, you've also, Mr. Author, Mr. Painter, Mr. Artist, you also have a podcast.
I do have a podcast.
Because why not?
Why not? Who doesn't have a fucking podcast at this time now? Like, I mean, everybody I know has something going on. So, yeah, the way this went was, there were some artists that I was working with. We did a show here in Orlando. We did a Halloween show where I basically did a wish list of artists that I wanted to work with that I never thought I would be able to.
Okay.
And we invited all of these guys to do a show, and basically everybody that was on my wish list showed up for the show as far as sent us artwork that we put up. And that show was pretty great. My wife wound up basically taking the head on that, and she did a great job because it almost fell apart due to some other issues, outside influence.
Okay.
And then Jen was able to kind of rein it back in and reestablish some trust with some artists that was really incredible. So from that, there was a podcast with a guy named David Stupakis, a gentleman named Damian Eccles, and my friend Menton, and it was called Transgression. And I was privileged enough to be able to guest on that several times. They had me on as a guest for different things. And from that, I got kind of like the bug. Like, I really enjoyed it. And then when Transgression ran its course, Menton and I had a conversation. We were like, well, let's do one of our own, and let's take it in maybe a different direction. So we did, and it's called Revival. I can post up some links later. You can post them if you want, but Revival is basically Menton and I just kind of hashing out what it's like day-to-day artist. We're both dads. We're both artists. We have musical history shared and otherwise, and we have, in spite of all these commonalities, he and I also have some very stark differences. And I think the interesting thing is when he and I disagree about things more than when we agree. It's pretty cool. Like I get a lot out of going back and listening to these shows, and it's not just like to hear myself ramble, but it's to hear my friend and I bounce ideas. And he's one of the gentlemen I talk to. In fact, as far as when I'm making a decision, I contact. He's one of those guys. So Menton Matthews, and he's just an amazing artist, and we work together a lot. And I'm gonna stop smooching him now.
You guys have a great, great chemistry when you're talking. Like you're very easy to listen to. There's a few out there that I kind of struggle listening to, I'm not going to lie, but you guys have a very good flow. You know, you guys work very well together.
The funny thing about he and I, he hired me to play guitar in a band years and years ago. The band was a goth band out of Atlanta. We did some really great things, and we traveled a lot together. It was very close quarters. It was, life in a van on the road. Yeah. You get to know me very well, but on top of that, at one point I was pretty down into some things, and he gave me a place to stay. And
nice.
So now you're living together, then you get in a van, and then you're still
living together.
Yeah. And so we've developed it's kind of like a Tom and Jerry fucking Laurel and Hardy thing. Like we just have this, I think we just know how to play off each other really well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Now, do you guys do, and I'm not familiar with, I apologize, the time frames of your episodes, do you guys usually do it like weekly, bi-weekly?
It's a little sporadic. He's recently relocated to Atlanta. He was living in Chicago. And we try to do one a week. Currently, I think we're 2 weeks behind right now.
Okay.
But we are talking about what the next topic will be, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get together either in the next couple of days or at least next week we'll have another one. Currently, though, there's like 17 episodes, maybe 16. I'm not sure. Yeah. There's quite a few. We're on iTunes, and we're on what's the other SoundCloud, and I post links all the time. There's a Facebook page.
Yes.
And there's been a few interviews we've done with some other artists.
Nice.
I can't even think. Kate Logan up in Atlanta. We've done an interview with her. We've done a couple of interviews that haven't been put up yet. I'm working on an interview with my friend Yerky from 69 Eyes, which is a band out of Helsinki, and more vampires. So it's kind of like it's an art podcast, but there's a lot more to it besides just art, because there's a lot more to us than just the art aspect of what we do.
Yeah, you guys talk about a lot of things, which I think is great. It's very open.
It's weird because the one thing that we wind up talking about the most is something that's kind of esoteric, which is we talk about. It seems to always come back to intent. Mm-hmm. Just it comes back to what the force is behind what the thing is that you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's not just that you're painting the thing; it's what motivates you to get to the point where you want to, or that you're able to. There's a lot of introspection that goes on with how we work and the way that things get out. It's really cool to hear his kind of process of stuff. Mm-hmm. Mine is more like, oh, pretty colors, but his stuff is more like he's just got a better way about that than I kind of like clumsily ham-fisted slap paint around.
You guys are definitely a good pair to listen to. So check it out. It's called Revival.
Yeah.
Give it a listen. It's some good stuff. I enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. It's, again, I mean, you're kind of in everything.
It's you want to be as many places as you can, because if you cover more ground, more people will know who you are. And if nobody knows who I am, who's going to buy my paintings?
Right. Exactly.
And here's something I try to talk about with artists a lot too, is like in the art world, there's kind of like this myth of competition between artists. Mm-hmm. Kind of like how if you're vending at an event, you think there's this competition between the guy next to you,
right,
and you who's going to sell. Both of you have a Pennywise painting. Who's it going to be? Like,
right,
this whole bullshitty thing. Really what it is, and this was something I learned early on, was what it really is, the only competition that an artist has today is the fucking noise of the world. CNN, Portland, fucking the world's on fire. Everybody's got the plague. Like, what the fuck ever is going on?
Right.
That's the only competition. You just got to be louder than that stuff, so people can hear you and know who you are. Because if they don't know who you are, they're not going to do business with you. You're not going to build a relationship with somebody you don't know. It's just, so the more that you can get out into the world and the broader net you can cast, the more you can bring things in. Yeah, exactly. So I try to be as many places as I can.
Oh, it's smart, you know. And I do got some questions here in the chat. I've got a couple of people asking where you got your coffee mug.
Do you know how hard it is to find? No, I've had this thing for a while. I ordered it from Cooters.
Did you?
He's got a website. Yeah.
That's awesome. I may need to order one just because. Why not?
It comes in a box that says Cooters.
That's a win. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Vaughn while we're just kind of hanging out? And I do have one. If you could give a budding artist a piece of advice, what would you give them?
Paint more. Paint daily. Draw more. Draw daily. I'm very slack on my sketchbook. I would say to an artist who's really trying, because you can't sell, I mean, you can sell shitty paintings. Shitty paintings sell all the time. But really craft what you're doing. Find your fingerprint. And the only way to find your fingerprint is to keep trying things. Try on different hats. Try on different fucking styles. Try on anything until you find what fits you. But primarily, draw and paint every single day. 1 hour a day. That's what I do. I do 1 hour a day on my tablet, in my sketchbook. I do 1 hour a day of, even if it's just some bullshit, or just drawing circles for an hour, which I was doing. Draw circles for an hour for a month, you'll get good. But draw every day.
I do good stick figures, and that's about it. That's the extent of my drawing.
You'll grow. Just do them every day. 1 hour. It's amazing. It's like any other muscle. You just have to give it the exercise that it needs to develop.
Yes. Definitely. Well, I want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me and with everybody that's kind of watching tonight and sharing with us, you know, some pieces of you.
I hope that any of this made any sense to any.
It made all the sense. Now, I do have a couple of questions popping in here. I've got Cheryl asking, is there a dream project that you have? Something that you'd love to do that you haven't gotten a chance to do yet?
Who asked me?
Cheryl.
Hey, Cheryl. A dream project. Well, the show that I was mentioning, that show was a dream project for sure. That show, the artists that were involved were some of the guys that I still to this day look up to, like Chet Zar, Dave Sapakis, Menton, of course, that I've mentioned way too many times. There was so many that were involved in that show. So being on the same wall with people like that is what is one thing that really feeds me. I'm doing a show this coming next year. I'm doing a show in California at Copro Gallery with Menton that we're going to do a group show. It's going to be basically not a group show. It's going to be he and I, so like a team show. And so that's a gallery that I've been wanting to show at forever. What I do is I like to pick a gallery and kind of target them. And Copro is one that I've been wanting to be in for years. And the fact that that showed up on my doorstep, that alone is a dream. I want to do my next big step in growth is I want to do murals. I want to get into the mural game and have some big pieces up on some walls around and really explore giant spaces.
Nice. I have Alex Sanchez asking when you guys are going to do his nude photo shoot.
I'm getting it lit right now, so oil up, make sure you're shaved in the appropriate places, and be here in 15.
I think done. And that's okay. So I got JD asking for the Art Always Sells. Would you prefer to do in person, one-on-one, or would you be open to doing something virtual like what we're doing now? Of course, not in front of like 30 people, but you know.
What I love doing with the Art Always Sells, that the consultation things, the coaching that I do, a fucking phone call. Like, I just like to get on the phone and I listen to what they're telling me as far as what the challenge that they're having, and I look into maybe what their motivation is and try and figure out how we can find a solution to what they're talking about. Because most of the questions that I get for Art Always Sells are stuff that I mean, they're so basic, but we miss some of these things. So what I truly like is one-on-one phone calls, and I do Skype. I mean, like Skype I'll do because it's the one-on-one thing. It's a little closer, but you know, I guess it's going to have to change. I mean, the one constant is change, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. What's the one question that you get asked most often when you do those one-on-one consultations?
The one question I get asked the most on those consultations is probably something to do with pricing. It's usually about how much do I charge for my work, and the question of price for an artist is very personal, and it ties into who they are, and it's a whole insecurity thing. I'm afraid to ask for this amount of money because it's just something I did. It's like, so you diminish your creativity. You undersell yourself. Here's the big one. You price out of fear because you're afraid no one's going to fucking buy the thing. So you price it to what you think that nobody could possibly say no to. And then you've let go of a piece of yourself for fucking nothing. Right. So what I would say, the biggest challenge with people that I talk to for the consultations is pricing and finding a place to value yourself. You got to find your own self-value, because if I don't value my work, no one's going to. If I don't stick to my price, or if I don't find a price that like I'm comfortable with, I'm going to get taken, because people are going to take advantage. They're going to. And it's just human nature. Yeah. But I've got to find some place where I can price my work to where I feel comfortable, and I know that I can build into future business. My pricing stays. I go up about $100 a year. That's kind of like my raise in price. Is I go up about $100 a year, and that's kind of average. My one thing though is I also try to make sure I've got some things for people who don't have $900. Right. You know, like there are people that collect my work and have a lot of my pieces, but they're all 5x7s, and it's great that they have them. I love that they have them. And I love that I'm able to do that for them, because then they tell somebody that's got, you know, a larger wall, or they've got like a new home. So I really want to make sure that anyone that I talk to and give any kind of coaching to, that they know to value their own work and not let people not get beat down. Yeah.
I think that's great advice. I've got a couple of people in the chat that say that they feel called out by that statement of not sure what to charge and undervaluing, you know, themselves.
Good. Talk to me. I'll help you out with it.
See that? And I know, and some of you, I know your work, and I'm familiar with you, and yes, you do undersell yourselves.
Oh, I could start fucking naming names right now.
Steve Nedley, what? I mean, I'm just saying, there's a couple, and I love you guys, but yeah, it does, you know, it does happen, and I see it happening, and if I were to decide to say, all right, I'm going to do some art and I'm going to sell it, like, I wouldn't know where to start. You know what I mean? So I do see guys where they're only charging maybe $30, and I'm like, why? That's insane.
See, that's the thing. Like, okay, so what you want to do, there's a formula to everything. The formula to this is, it goes like this. You charge for your materials, so you got to cover your materials, whatever that looks like, right? So say you're using cheap Michael's paint, like whatever Hobby Lobby paint you're using. Right. So you got to cover that. You got to cover the cost of your canvas. Simple. Those are easy. Then find an hourly wage that you're comfortable doing a shit job. So if you got hired at Taco Bell, what would it cost you to feel comfortable doing that job? Find that number, add those other two numbers, and fucking triple it, because that's going to be your number. You want to be able to put something together that makes sense, because you're going to have, there's a couple things that are going to happen. One, you're going to get really attached to a painting and you won't want to fucking sell it. Right. Which happens. It does. It happens to me all the time. What's it worth to you to let that painting go? So you got to find that price. Yes. Then there's going to be the opposite end of that, which is going to be the person who wants you to paint a fucking bunny rabbit that you don't want to paint. What's it going to cost to make you do that and be able to look yourself in the mirror? So then you got to find that price. And somewhere in between. But if you take the price of your materials, an hourly wage that you're comfortable with, and you triple that number, that's generally a great starting point. There you go. See that? Free sage-like advice from Vaughn. Fucking math.
It makes sense, though. You know what I mean? And it's very logical. And you're absolutely right with, what are you comfortable working at, for an hour or even 2 hours? And whether it's that shit job at Taco Bell or you work at a bank, you have to kind of find that.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to step on you there. What'd you say?
No, you're good. Step on it.
I was going to say, I'm just going to share this real quick. I had a situation happen early on. I was doing an art market. It was in downtown Orlando at Wall Street Plaza. And it was a lot of artists set up. It was like a Thursday or Friday night, so it was pretty packed downtown. Mm-hmm. And a guy and his girl come up to me. I had 3 paintings. I do these long cat paintings, these big-eyed cat paintings. I've been doing them for years. I had 3 of them, like I often do. I like to do them as a triptych. And I had these paintings, and they were, what were they? They were $125 a piece. And I told the guy I'd sell them to him $300 for the set. So now $75 is off the table. And he turns around and he hits me with another number that's ridiculously low. And oof. I had just learned this, and I used it on him for the first time. And it was by way of, it's going to sound sarcastic, but it was really by way of educating somebody. And I said, I've already given you $75. How much more money do I have to give you? I don't have any more money to give you. If you want these paintings, the price is $300. And he's like, well, you'd rather say no to a sale than this? I said, what I'm saying no to is not the sale. What I'm saying no to is disrespect. And I talked to him in a way that kind of embarrassed him a little bit. He was with his girl, so I sort of like put that into the thing. And I was like, you want her to see you be cheap? I asked him a couple of questions. I said, if you bought her a painting for super cheap, you think she'd want it on her wall if it was like $20? Like, I don't want $20 worth of art on my fucking wall.
Right.
I want $100 worth of work on my wall or $3,000 worth of work on my wall.
Right.
Then I asked him the most important question. I asked him what he did for a living. And he was German. He was like, they were tourists. So, like, he was a surgeon, is what he said. He was a surgeon. And I said, okay, so let me ask you, when you charge somebody, right, a surgeon's going to beat on a price.
Fucking $300. Jesus.
Comical. Right. So I said, when you're charging somebody for a procedure, are you charging them just for how much time you got them cut open and you're ripping things out of there or shoving things in there? Or do you have to charge them for all your education?
Right.
Being the guy that can actually do that thing.
Right.
I'm the guy that can paint that painting right now, and what you're paying me for isn't necessarily the paint on the canvas. It's being the guy that brought that thing that your girl likes, and you're going to walk away from here looking like either a hero or a sucker. It's up to you, but the price is $300. and ultimately what happened was we wound up being friendly to each other. It wasn't confrontational. There was laughter involved in the story.
Right.
And he bought some prints. He bought those paintings, and later on he ordered some more stuff, and I had to ship it to Germany, which cost an arm and a leg. And he was happy to do it because I had gotten through to him. I had let him know, like, it's not about the paint on the canvas so much as it is the guy that did that, the effort, the time it took to become the person to do that. And it's a nice way to educate somebody so that the next artist they talk to doesn't have to deal with their bullshit.
Right. And I hear that, like, we usually go to a lot of outdoor things where there's a lot of vendors now, whether it's a painting or something that someone hand makes or, stuff like what your wife does with like the jewelry or, the wall mounts where people immediately start to lowball. And it blows my mind because it's like you realize that you can't do this. Someone else can, and they do it well. And you're trying to be cheap about it. That's almost like walking up and slapping him in the face with a glove. You know what I mean?
Also, you know me, so you know I enjoy the shit out of this kind of thing because I do. Like, confrontation, let's go, back and forth. Come on, let's go. So if you've ever stood at my table for more than 10 minutes at Spooky Empire, you've heard me go through some kind of an educational process with somebody who walks up with $20 and thinks going to walk away with $500.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
No. And I'm going to let them know that we can work something out. And I've got these prints I'll sell you, too, for that $5. But, get your credit card because we've got to have a different conversation.
Yeah. And that's just it. And I know, I've got a lot of people that are watching that kind of hang out. Just kind of keep that in the back of your heads when you're shopping and when you're perusing people's wares. Okay. Like, don't pull that dick move and try to lowball them like that because it's time, it's the effort, it's the talent that I don't have in my pinky finger that other people do,
You want to know who's the worst? Here, I'll rat somebody out. You want to know who's the worst?
Who?
Your closest friends and your fucking family.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that hit you with the fucking lowball.
You're not wrong.
Every single time that want to come up and get a discount or this or that. And God love them. Most of the time I will absolutely work something out, but I'm going to make fun of you.
Yes. And the funny thing is that, and in turn, so my husband does special effects makeup. And we do it,
What?
I know, right? Like, nobody knew this. So he does it like, he does it spooky. We do the walks and things like that. And there's been a time or two where somebody's come up and they're like, hey, can you put my piece on? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll help you out. And he puts it on and he turns around and they walk away.
What? Yeah.
And it's like, listen, dude, my time is worth money. My supplies is worth money. The adhesive that we're putting on that piece so that it sticks to your face isn't free. Uh-huh. Whereas it may not be $100, but like something. So, I mean, as you said, friends and family, I love y'all, but y'all are the worst at that shit, man.
True. And just on this note, just so that everyone knows, if you want me to do coaching with you, it's going to cost. It's not super expensive. I keep it very, very reasonable. It's usually something like $60 to $80 an hour. And for that $60 or $80, you get like 12 years of trying to figure out how to do this shit. And I'm not going to ever tell anybody anything that I don't actually do. I'm not going to sell you advice. I'm only going to share information with you that I've found that has actually worked for me and gotten me to be able to support my family, to be able to have a full-time job of painting, to be able to live without a boss. Like, it's my main goal in life is freedom. Just in general, my main goal is freedom. I quit drinking to be free. I started painting to be free. Like, the whole thing is about being as much on my own as it can be in that sense, to be there with my family and spend time with the kid and be able to like do all the things that we want to do without having to answer to anybody.
Right.
So if that's something that appeals to you, I can help you. And I'm not just like blowing smoke. I'm not just being like big headed or any of that stuff. It's just that I did the digging, and I'm more than happy to help anybody who's got questions that wants to get to that.
And that's awesome. So again, hit up Vaughn, shoot him a message. He does consultations. He also does commissions. Yeah. So buy some art and spend some cash, because it's totally worth it. We have a lot of your stuff at the house.
I was really glad that I got to give you guys that giant Nosferatu for your wedding that I couldn't go to.
Yes. So I posted a picture on Facebook, and I'll post it again. I posted it a couple of days ago. There's this beautiful canvas Nosferatu painting that Vaughn did, and unfortunately they didn't make the wedding, but we were at the house a little while after for like a get-together and a gathering of shenanigans and sorts.
A shit show is what it was.
I mean, it's usually a shit show, let's be honest. But you gave us that amazing piece, and we absolutely love it, and we can't thank you enough for it. And we found the perfect spot next to our giant-ass werewolf that's like right there as soon as you walk in the house. So it's like, bam, it fits so well with that room. So, from both of us, thank you so much for that.
Very happy to do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's phenomenal. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing all of the knowledge that you've dropped on everybody that's watching. I mean, there's all kinds of love in the chat, of appreciation of you, giving out that information. And then, a few people that you have helped out, have said thank you. So I think that's awesome, dude. Thank you.
I hope so, because I know that there were people that helped me, and that's what it's about, is helping each other along, whether it's giving somebody information or carrying a bin full of their work. Like, whatever it is, I'll help you set up a table in your tent just as fast as I'll help you learn how to sell a painting.
There you go. Boom. Done. Mm-hmm. All right. So check out the podcast that Vaughn does called Revival. Yep. Also, make sure that you buy his book, Dodging Knives and Throwing Bullets. That's available on Amazon. He does the consultations. Sketch Cult will be coming back once all of the craziness of the world calms the hell down.
going to be probably January is when that's going to happen. That's what we're looking at, is January.
Okay, awesome. So that'll be January, so keep your eyes open from that. We'll be sharing that information here as well. But yeah, thank you again for tuning in. We'll go ahead and wrap this up. Is there anything that you want to plug, or is there anywhere that you want to send folks to check anything out?
No, I mean, you can find me anywhere. I'm the only Vaughn Belak on the planet, so if you Google search my name, you're going to fucking find me. I'm very,
easy to find.
Super easy to find. I ain't hiding from nobody.
Boom, find that man. Well, thank you again for joining us. Thank you guys for watching. And until next time, make sure that you keep it spooky.